Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Saturday, September 30th. This is Gina McGuire. As a reminder, this will be the last fire potential briefing of the fire season. We will resume our off-season smoke dispersion briefings on Monday, and these briefings will be issued every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday through the off-season, mainly focusing on smoke dispersion. Looking at the fire potential impacts for today, we have no significant fire potential concerns across the Great Basin. However, we will see an increase in winds as we go through the weekend across Idaho and into the eastern half of the Great Basin, but relative humidity will be somewhat higher, and our fuel conditions have certainly moderated, as we will also see showery weather across many of these areas as well, along with cooling temperatures as we go into early next week. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen only light amounts of precipitation, with very little lightning across the Great Basin, precipitation mainly over the northern half of the area, with a few isolated strikes over the eastern portion. Fire activity has also been very light across the Great Basin, with only a few small fires reported across Idaho into northeast Nevada. Looking at the last 1 to 4 weeks, over the last 7 days, precipitation has been focused over mainly the eastern half of the Great Basin, and what we've seen across Utah has been above normal for the time of year. Over the last 30 days, we've seen above normal precipitation over much of Idaho and Wyoming, and also into parts of the northern half of Nevada and the higher terrain of Utah. How this has affected our fuel conditions: ERCs have generally dropped below the 50th to 70th percentile region-wide. They are slightly on the higher side over parts of northern Nevada into southwest Idaho that have been on the dry side of this precipitation. However, again, much of the area has been on the decline, and we will see precipitation today moving across the Great Basin this weekend, along with much cooler weather again early next week. Therefore, these ERCs will continue to decrease once again. Looking at our 10-hour fuel moisture, just with the drier air in place over the western half of the Great Basin, 10-hour fuel moisture is still relatively low, and we do still have a significant grass crop over the northern half of Nevada into southwest Idaho. Therefore, if we do get fire starts in some of these drier areas before the cool temperatures move in, we could see some spread for a burning period or so. 100-hour fuel moisture is also lowest also on the western side of the basin in the drier areas, but is much higher as you go further east. Looking at our satellite loop from this morning, we have a deep area of low pressure over western Canada with a trough across the Great Basin. This is producing some cloud cover this morning along with scattered showers over parts of Idaho into the eastern half of Nevada and northern Utah. There's no lightning this morning. Relative humidity is definitely higher in the cooler air with the showers over the northern half of the region. We will also see some gusty winds with this system, mainly across Idaho into parts of the eastern half of the Great Basin. Now looking later on into this afternoon, the weather pattern, that trough of low pressure affecting the Great Basin and continuing to move eastward with a better chance of showers and gusty winds over the eastern half of the area. Low fire potential is expected really region-wide as we will see these cooler and wetter conditions. Today, again, you can see those showers by later today over much of the eastern half of the area. However, we will this morning see some showers a little bit further west. Also, the winds in the image on the right will be shifting to the west and northwest and be quite gusty, especially over southern Idaho, northeast Nevada into Utah. However, again, we will see showers with cooler temperatures and higher relative humidity. On Sunday, this area of low pressure moves over the northern Rockies, so still keeping cool and unsettled weather across much of the Great Basin with low fire potential. Showers on Sunday will be very similarly located to where they are today, mainly across the north and eastern areas with continued dry weather over western Nevada and into the south. Winds on Sunday will still remain breezy with generally northwest winds over the northern two-thirds of the region and generally southwest winds over parts of the Arizona Strip into southern Utah with gusts between about 25 and 35 miles per hour. They will be locally higher, but again, relative humidity will be increased over the northern two-thirds of the region. On Monday, we still have this trough of low pressure settled in with the cool and unsettled weather generally in the north and continued low fire potential. As you can see, the showers on Monday may move a little bit further west as that trough drops south. We could see a few isolated showers also on the Sierra front, but most of that activity is going to be further east. Also, winds will remain breezy, but will be shifting to the north and northeast with northeast gusty winds over western and northern Nevada, which will be a shift in direction, and they might be quite breezy during the overnight hours as well, but we will again see increased relative humidity. Over the next 3 days, you can see the areas of precipitation impacted, mainly across Idaho, Wyoming, and the eastern half of the basin. We will also see lowering snow levels in the north, so we could see some snowfall down to about 6,000 or 6,500 feet across parts of Idaho and Wyoming. Looking into next week, on Tuesday that low is still camped out across the Great Basin with some showers in the north and still drier conditions in the south. Again, continued low fire potential through the period. On Wednesday, we start to see that dry air really move into much of the southern half of the Great Basin with decreasing shower activity in the north as well. Moving into Thursday, dry weather really expected region-wide, so more sunny skies are expected and wind should be on the decrease as we go through the middle of next week. However, fire potential still remains low as we will see cooler temperatures, especially through the early part of the week, with highs dropping to 15 to 20 degrees once again below normal over the northern half of the Great Basin. We will see warmer and drier conditions, however, return later next week. On Friday, that dry and warm conditions continue across the Great Basin. Looking at the 7-day forecast amount of precipitation, most of that occurs through early in the week, and again, mainly in the east and north. Looking at our 8 to 14-day outlook, you can see generally below normal temperatures expected over much of the Great Basin, with some chances for above normal precipitation in the far east, but really near normal across most of the Great Basin. That concludes our briefing for today. As a reminder, this will be our last fire potential briefing of the season, and we will go to our off-season smoke dispersion webcast starting Monday, which will be issued Monday, Wednesday, Friday each week. Have a great day, and check back on Monday for the latest updates. As we go into the weekend, we have a trough of low pressure in place across the Great Basin, but most of that heavier moisture will move over the far eastern portions of the area, with drier air pushing in from the west. We will continue to keep cool temperatures, but they will start to warm over the weekend. However, low fire potential with generally light to moderate wind flow and much cooler weather. As we move into Sunday into early next week, a ridge of high pressure starts to build off the west coast, which will push eastward. However, still some moderate northerly winds will continue across the Great Basin, keeping temperatures, although they will be warming, they will be still below normal. Similar conditions as we go into Monday and Tuesday next week. However, that ridge starts to build a little bit further eastward, so we may see temperatures return to near normal levels by Monday and Tuesday. So you can see on the significant fire potential outlook a little bit of drying over the western areas, but still generally low fire potential in most of the Great Basin. The forecast amount of precipitation over the next 7 days is largely attributed to what we'll see in the next 3 days. Again, mostly with that weather as that area of low pressure moves through with drier weather by the weekend into early next week. Looking at the 8 to 14-day outlook, which takes us into the last few days of September, into early October, and you can see a return of warmer conditions, especially to western areas of the Great Basin, along with below normal precipitation. So we will see a period of potentially warm and dry weather as we get later in the month into early October. That concludes our briefing for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you for listening.